What I liked the most was this contrast between the feelings of the main characters and their relationship and the wartime.
What's up everybody, I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna.
And welcome to our bucket list channel, a channel in which we try to realize the goals and dreams that are on our bucket list. Today we're working on one of those goals, which is to watch every movie that was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards from 1927 to 2028. Today we're going to be reviewing A Farewell to Arms, a 1932 movie. So the way we're going to be doing this review is the same way we do all of them. First part is spoiler free, so don't be worried if you don't want to get spoiled. Second part, we're going to be talking about certain elements that we want to dive deeper in, but with spoilers. We'll warn you before we get there, so don't worry about that. And at the very end of the review, there will be
the ranking.
Exactly, where we rank the movie from that year in order first to last. I say that year because we're now at the 6th Academy Award year.
1933.
1932/1933.
Yeah.
This is the last year where they do that slash thing. Afterward, it's just 1 year. And we've watched 37 movies and one lost. So hey, we're getting there one at a time. But before we get into any part of our discussion, first, some info about the movie.
Yes.
Farewell to Arms, a 1932 movie that came out more specifically on December 8, 1932. This is a Paramount picture film. It is based on the 1929 semi-autobiographical novel by Ernest Hemingway. Yes. You knew?
Yeah. Oh, I knew. I haven't read the book. I have read other. I'm actually currently reading another one, For Whom the Bells Toll, which is also a similar story, right?
So yeah, Hemingway, based on Hemingway's book, directed by Frank Borzage. Do you recognize the name?
No.
So he was the director of Bad Girl.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So the movie stars Ellen Hayes as Catherine Barclay, Gary Cooper as Lieutenant Frederick Henry, Adolphe Menjou as Major Rinaldi, Mary Phillips as Ellen Ferguson, and Jacques Larue as the priest. I'm gonna do something here, give you a review from the time, 1932.
Right.
And then a review from a more recent publication.
I'm curious.
Here, from the New York Times in 1932, Mordaunt Hall wrote, "There is too much sentiment and not enough strength in the pictorial conception of Ernest Hemingway's novel. The film account skips too quickly from one episode to another, and the hardship and other experience of Lieutenant Henry are passed over too abruptly, being suggested rather than told." Okay? So not the most glowing
review
of reviews.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, this is just one person. It doesn't mean that it represents the entire review at the time, because obviously he got nominated, so some people liked it. But a more recent review, 2014, in the Time Out London, "It is not only the best film version of a Hemingway novel, but also one of the most thrilling vision of the power of sexual love that even Borzage ever made. No other director created." Something like that.
Interesting. Okay.
So I just wanted to point out the contrast here. Of course, this could be done by just picking reviews like randomly, but this reflected a certain viewpoint that I saw, meaning like now this movie is very well regarded.
Appreciated much more than
it was. Not that it wasn't appreciated at this time, because again,
it got nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, but also for 4 Academy Awards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Best Picture, Best Art Direction for Hans Dreyer and Ronald Anderson. Best Cinematography for Charles Lang. Best Sound Recording for Franklin Hansen. First, before we get deeper into our conversation, I just want to ask you, did you like this movie?
I liked it. I thought it was a very interesting story. There were certain elements that bothered me a little bit in the story, and I'm not sure if they were also present in the book or if it was just add up to the movie or something that was done to the movie in order to condense the story, right? But overall, I thought it was a very interesting story. And what I liked the most was this contrast between the feelings of the main characters and their relationship and the wartime. And I felt like there was always this parallel between things regarding the war and things regarding the two of them, and how one influences the other.
Yeah. So definitely in that sense, I will agree. There is a parallel there, and it's made very obvious by the last scene of the movie, especially between the war and their relationship. But I must say, this movie to me, I don't know really how to describe it. It was not bad, but I feel like that's the highest praise that I have for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was good, except for certain elements. And elements are mostly regarding the story rather than the filmmaking or anything like this. But
you say mainly on the story. Let's talk about performances first.
Okay.
I had an issue with some performances.
You did?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Not necessarily the entire performance, but Ellen Hayes' performance.
Who is Catherine?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like at the end, throughout the movie, she's good. At the end, the last maybe
Yeah, I know what you're talking
fourth
about.
of the movie.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I felt like I wasn't with her there.
Yeah, I wasn't convinced.
Yeah, and so that like sticked out to me so much that I was like, oh my god, and it kind of makes me forget the rest of her performance, which was good up until then.
It was really good for yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
It was good for most of the movie towards the end. But towards the end, I feel like there's also a shift in the character. So maybe that was difficult for her to grasp.
And then, like, jumping on the Times review of the movie, I feel like he points out some elements, which is a reason also why I picked out this review particularly, that I agreed with, is that they jump around a lot in a way that sometimes you feel like something is missing.
I see what you mean, yeah.
What something is missing, especially in terms of the development of these characters and their story. We jump from that moment and their relationship to that moment and their relationship, and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to fill in the gap myself, but sure, I can do that easily, but now I have less attachment to these characters.
Right.
And their story.
It's like they say, movies should show, not tell. If the characters tell me this happened, instead of showing that it happened, then it has less of an impact.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying by any means, again, that the movie was bad, but I just came out of it kind of meh,
I see what you mean, but I didn't actually thought that it was a very good movie. And I felt like the whole movie was like a metaphor of war. And I liked it, and I felt it in that way. As I said, it's true, I had issues with it, with the storytelling. I didn't really think about the actors' performances. I thought they were good overall. They were really good, actually.
Yeah, Rinaldi was great.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, and of course the main male counterpart, Frederick Henry, I thought was also good throughout the movie.
Yeah.
It's just certain scenes at certain times and the last arc of the movie made it like a bit less appreciable.
What did you think though of visuals and sounds? Because it's a war movie, so there are a lot of elements, like war elements included.
Yeah, I think they did a good job, especially in terms of sound. Like you hear bombing at different moments, and they're outside for a lot of times. I'm always giving higher praise when these movies happen outside, because they had more difficulty back then dealing with lighting, dealing with stuff like this. And a lot of movies that we've watched, they seem to happen in a set of a few different locations,
Yeah.
This person's office, this person's
Like
bedroom. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the whole movie is there. But here, when you see them going outside a lot, they drive, they do a bunch of different things. I appreciate that, definitely. And then the sound, of course, the war sound. I thought it was well edited, well mixed. And they got nominated for both of those elements, cinematography and sound recording. Would you recommend this movie?
Considering that of the war movies that we've seen that actually feature war scenes, I think that this is the best so far.
Wings, 1927, those aerial battle.
That was something. That was impressive, truly.
And All Quiet on the Western Front. I thought they did a great job in the scene, when he's in the trenches and, there's the bodies around him. You could feel how horrible it was.
Yeah, I suppose.
I'm not
I
saying
don't
they
know.
did a bad job. I'm just saying I can think of other war movies we've watched in this series that were very good in terms of their representation of the war.
I don't know. I'm not convinced. I like this one. I thought it was good. And I thought it showed a very human-like side of war.
I think what's interesting here is that we see another aspect, because he's not a soldier on the front. She's not working on the front either, And so it's another part of the war. And so that's interesting. But they don't really show that many like battles or anything like specifically war related. The context is war. It's a movie that happens during war rather than a just war movie. It's a love movie during war.
Well, yeah, but going back to whether or not I would
recommend
it, I would say yes. You pointed out that it's not necessarily like there are other options if you're interested in like the war genre, but I feel like the way they put together the story, it was very interesting, this parallel between like war and love. I feel like they did a very good job at showing how, like I said, how one affects the other, how war affects their relationship, but also how their relationship affects their obligations, their positions. So I thought that was great. Overall, I would recommend it.
And regardless of all I said, I would recommend it too. Again, it shows another side of the war that is not necessarily just the front and the soldiers fighting and shooting at each other, And so that's also an aspect that's important during war. The people that are left behind but are still working towards the war effort. And I would also say that this is an interesting movie in terms of seeing adaptation from Hemingway's work, who's like a well-renowned novelist. And so if you're interested in any of his work, you might be interested in just looking at that movie for that reason too. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Now let's get to our spoiler section. And which will start by giving a short synopsis and then some more information.
Okay.
So the synopsis of the movie. This is a movie about an American ambulance driver and an English nurse who fall in love in Italy during World War One. So when I was saying this is a love movie during war, this is the main crux of the movie. Movie is based, of course, on Hemingway's novel. The novel was based on Hemingway's own experiences serving in the Italian campaign during First World War. The inspiration for Catherine Barclay was Agnes von Kurowski, a nurse who cared for Hemingway in a hospital in Milan after he had been wounded. He had planned to marry her, but she spurned his love and he returned to America. Now, another interesting element is in terms of the production and censorship of this movie. So we haven't talked a lot about code and pre-code movies, but a lot of the movies we've been watching were either pre-code or were there when the censorship board in the US, was established but didn't have as much power. But as the years go on, they start getting more influence and getting more of a grasp on production. And so we will see as movies advance, less and less risky, quote-unquote, risky stuff being showcased.
Okay.
And so here I have some information regarding that and link to that a little bit. Some prints for the American audience had a happy ending where Catherine did not die, and some were ambiguous. Some theaters were even offered a choice of what version they would show. The censors were concerned about more than just the heroine's death though. Versions of the movie, there were a lot of versions of the movie when a much more powerful motion picture production code got a hold of the picture before various re-release for film and television. So years later, when the code was enforced more truly and they wanted to re-release the movie for either TV or other medium, then they got a hold of it and made numerous other altercation. And so there is a lot of different versions of the movie out there.
Which is not like the original version.
Yeah, different in the sense, either Catherine doesn't die or there's some censorship of violent scene or other elements, which made it hard for people to ever find the original print.
Okay.
But a DVD of that original print, the 1932 version, was released in 1999 after being thought to be lost.
Oh wow. So talking about lost movies.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's curious because when I think of censorship, I think, okay, fine, extremely violent scenes. I get that they would censor that. But like I think more of like either vice or sexual scenes or, things like this, not a character's dying.
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
Why would they censor that? Especially because she didn't die like a violent death.
She died in her bed and
In a
being
hospital.
reunited with him.
Yeah.
At peace in a way. She panics at first, but then he tells her it's going to be okay, and then she's at peace and dies. And so yeah, it's weird that they would censor that specifically. We can start with that in terms of our conversation. When I was talking about some of her performances being off key, to me the whole time she was in the hospital,
Yeah, I agree.
she was off.
But it's because the whole time throughout the movie she was like a certain kind of character. Even after like she got to Switzerland, she was kind and everything, but she was also like strong and determined. But then when she gets in the hospital, she's like scared, and even the things that she tells him as she's dying, like you'll only love me even if I die and things like this, it feels not considerate of her.
Yeah,
And
especially when you think of the fact that she herself had a previous engagement with someone who died.
exactly.
And she had to move on. And so to tell someone else to like never move on.
Yeah, only love me even after I die. Like it doesn't feel, in line with what her character was until that point.
Yeah.
Where in the beginning she starts like this, kind of crazy girl wanting to, live her life the best she could.
So speaking of her beginnings as a character, their first encounter, so her and Henry, starts out well, but then as they are, laying down, looking at the stars, enjoying their time, he tries to kiss her, she slaps him. And then a bit further, he tries again, she says no, no, no. And then after a short conversation, agrees. What did you think of that? I was kind of uncomfortable.
It was a little bit, yes. But that's what I was talking about when saying that I feel like maybe some scenes were just condensed. Maybe in the book, things happen at a different pace. But in a movie, you want to put the whole development of the relationship in one scene.
So maybe there were several dates.
Yeah,
the first time she said no, the third time.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe they actually had longer conversations or more encounters, or it wasn't just like one date under the stars.
Because it feels a lot like he just kept pushing and forced himself on her until she was like, okay, fine.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like that in the movie. It does. That's true. But sometimes movie can fail in that way, that they fail to convey the message, but rather they want to condense the whole story.
And, I acknowledge that this was a different time, but still. We talked about Rinaldi, which I think is one of the most interesting character.
Also like a flipping character. A little bit.
At the end, he flips. And you get it, and at the same time you kind of don't get it. Because when you realize that, you really love her, you're going to have a baby with her, so I'll tell you where she is. I knew all along.
Right.
But it feels to me like it was pretty clear that he loved her before and that she was important to him.
Yeah.
And you were being a jerk, And so the flip here was understandable because the baby element is new. Mm-hmm. But still. But I wanted to talk about him because I think he's such an interesting character. Because he likes his friend, Henry. But he does such horrible things to keep him apart. Well, horrible. In the grand scheme of things, they're not that bad. But he tries as much as possible to keep him apart from her. Because, my friend is getting carried away with this woman. And I always thought it was an interesting character.
That is one part of the story that I actually was most not happy about, which is what was all of these people's business to have opinions about whether or not the two of them should be together. Everybody seemed to have an opinion about it, think like, oh no, this relationship is not good for them, and decide to act on it. It's not your business.
Yeah, the army, Ferguson, Rinaldi,
exactly,
the priest, everyone.
Out of all of them, the priest seemed to be the most understanding.
Yeah, but because he's a priest, he has to listen and just say...
But also the scene when the priest
marries them. But it's so that they don't live in sin.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. And this is the kind of stories that I've heard from war. Yeah. Real stories where priests would marry young couples in secret.
But it shows a certain level of not only understanding and appreciation, but support from him.
Yeah, exactly.
Even when Henry leaves the front, he tells the priest and say, tell people whatever you want. But the priest doesn't tell the truth because Rinaldi afterwards says, we thought you were dead.
So yeah, out of all of them, the priest was the only one who actually, gave, offered them his support. But everyone else seem to think that their opinion should be taken into consideration. The army, whatever higher up guy was like denying their letters so they couldn't communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And his friend Rinaldi sent the nurse to another city, to Milano, so that they wouldn't be in the same place anymore. All of these things.
Which, by coincidence, they end up being in the same place when he gets hurt. It was a nice story, nice love story during the war, and I want to touch on that before we leave this video. The parallel between the war and the love story.
Yes.
Which is like, as the war comes to an end, like that's where the parallel is as it's clearest at the end of the movie, where there is victory, peace. Life will win back, but at the same time she dies and he's miserable. It
does feel like a love story that only happened during the war. Like it didn't start with the war. It started when they met, but they met like during, the time of war.
Yeah.
And as the war ends, so does
their relationship.
Yeah. But in an exact different way, like in an exact opposite way.
Because the end of the war is a happy thing. The end of her life and of her relationship.
It is not. Yeah, exactly.
And the end of the war means life, the end of death.
Yes.
Death for the soldiers and for the civilians caught in it. But the end of their relationships means her death and the death of their baby.
Right. That was so tragic. Like that really added an element of tragedy to it.
Yeah.
The fact that because he gets to the hospital just as she's dying, they don't actually get to spend time together anymore.
Yeah.
Other than those last few moments. And only then he finds out that
the baby was dead.
The baby was also dead. Like he only found out that he had a baby only like a day before, and then as he gets there, the baby is gone, and then she is gone. Like it feels as if in that moment, that war, which finally ended, right before it ended, it took everything from him.
Yeah, but no, the movie again. To me, this is a okay to good movie. I wanted to like it more, but I needed to be more attached to their story, and I feel like they jumped.
Yeah, that's true.
They jumped around a bit too much for me to really get attached.
Yeah, the development of both the characters and the story was not spot on, definitely. But overall, I really appreciate it more for like the metaphor that it is.
Yeah.
And the message that it tries to convey, and the story that it's telling, which is an interesting story. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story with a tragic ending.
Yeah. So yeah, again, you recommend it.
I do, yes.
I also do. Time. So before we get to putting this movie on the ranking, let's see what the current rank is. At number 2, Smiling True. And at number 1, I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. Where would you put this movie? I think you can guess where I would put it.
Yeah, I can. But can you guess where I would put it?
I think you'll want to put it at number 2.
You think?
I don't know.
I think you want to put it at number 3.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put it at number 3 too.
Yeah.
I wish I would put it at number 2 because story-wise, I thought it's a more interesting movie to watch. But overall, it has too many flaws, even if they're like tiny things that bothered me. I don't want a film to bother me as I watch it. Like I don't want to watch it and be like, what? It's
be asking yourself questions. Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like number 3 will probably be
and overall
its place right now.
I enjoyed Smiling True more, I feel.
Yeah, it's the story itself is it's still an interesting story.
Yeah.
The message and the story in this movie is more like complex, I would say, and more interesting to me personally. But Smiling True did a better job at telling the story that they wanted to tell, definitely.
From beginning to end, everything is coherent. All the characters, have motivation that you understand, that you can follow. Even the uncle, if you don't always agree with, you're like, I kind of get what you're coming from, though I don't agree with you,
Yeah.
And so the overall experience is made better by everything fitting into place.
Exactly.
Correctly.
Yeah, I agree.
So that means the new ranking is number 3, A Farewell to Arms. Number 2, Smiling True. Number 1, I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang.
Yes.
Yeah. So that will be it for our review of A Farewell to Arms. If you guys want to see us watch more movies and review more movies actually from the list of Best Picture nominee, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Though we do other stuff on this channel apart from watching movies. This is a bucket list channel, so it means there's 101 things on that bucket list that we make videos about, whether it's traveling, cooking, playing games, watching movies, etc., etc. Check it out if you're interested, and subscribe if you like what you see. Like this video if you liked it, and comment in the comment section below. Have you ever seen A Farewell to Arms or read the book, the same name? If so, tell us, how did you find it? And have a nice day.
Now, don't you get mad, too. Catherine and I were thinking of asking you to our wedding. Would we, Kath?
You'll never get married.
We will.
No, you won't. You'll fight before you'll marry.
Oh, we never fight.
You've time yet.
We won't fight ever.
You'll die then. Fight or die. That's what people do. They don't marry.
Why, Fergie.